Hey everyone. In this video we're going to be looking at one specific way that the executive can be held accountable. Now there are multiple different mechanisms to holding the executive accountable. Mechanisms like individual ministerial responsibility or collective ministerial responsibility or the Auditor General or the Administrative Appeals Tribunal, the AAT. Or through judicial review or even through the Senate's Estimates Committee and other committee systems. But we're going to be focusing on individual ministerial responsibility for this video. Now we're going to do this through asking three questions. Number one, what is individual ministerial responsibility? Number two, how does it work? And number three, is it effective? Number one, what is individual ministerial responsibility? Well, the first thing to know is that it's a convention. This means that it is not written in the Constitution and it is not written in a statute law. It is a non-written expectation of the Parliament. Now what it states is that individual ministers within the Cabinet who must be members of the Parliament, remember section 64 of the Constitution, this convention states that those ministers must be held accountable or should be held accountable by the Parliament. That is what individual ministerial responsibility is, that ministers must be held accountable for their actions, for their behaviour, for the way that they manage their portfolio and the way they manage their department. Number two, how is this done? Well, this is done through a censor motion. A censor motion is when one of the Houses of Parliament will put an individual minister forward before Parliament to be debated as to whether they are fulfilling their role. And then that House will do a vote on whether they should be in or not. Number three, is it effective? Well, now this is a difficult question to ask. And what I'm going to do to try and answer it is split Parliament into the two houses and deal with each house separately. With the House of Representatives, the first thing that is really important for you to know is there has been no successful censor motion in the House of Representatives. Why do you think that is? Well, it's because the House of Representatives is dominated by the executive. The majority party is in and they always vote en bloc. They always support each other. And so there has been no successful censor motion. So some would say it's not been effective. However, it is important to know that whenever there is a censor motion put forward in the lower house, it brings a lot of publicity, a lot of bad publicity to certain ministers, and the media get involved too. And so often censor motions have been used to spark concerns around a particular individual minister. A few examples is a man called Mal Brough. Now he was found to have copied the diary of the then Speaker, Peter Slipper, and through the censor motion there was enough pressure put on him and he resigned. Another man was Jamie Briggs. Now Jamie Briggs was challenged and said that he had acted inappropriately with a female staffer whilst he was in Hong Kong. And again, same sort of pressure was put on him through the censor motion. Even though the censor motion wasn't successful, the media put so much pressure on that he ended up resigning. So some would say that censor motions do work. Even though they don't actually work within Parliament, they do cause a resignation and the result is still the same. In the Senate, however, we have a different story. In the Senate, convention isn't as strong. And so we have a problem with the Senate because even if a successful censor motion gets put forward, so that person could possibly still stay in power. So we have an example of one successful censor motion in the Senate, and there's only been one, and that was of Senator George Brandis. And he was put forward as a name, and he was successfully voted out. However, Tony Abbott at the time supported him, and he remained in power. And that's because convention has less authority in the Senate than it does in the House of Representatives. And so there is concern in the Senate as to whether it is effective. And that's for you to decide. So we have individual ministerial responsibility. It has never successfully worked, but it has put on a lot of pressure onto members of Parliament and ministers in the Cabinet, which have caused those ministers to end up resigning. You choose. Do you think it's successful or not? It's up to you.